Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today's video will finally be my entrance speed build. Now, as you might know, this was originally built on stream, so please do excuse any overlays or alerts that are popping up. I'll try to be a bit better about this when I specifically want to record something for YouTube. But basically I had a general idea for my entrance. I knew that I wanted to have a cliff to the left and a water feature to the right, and so I just kind of started out mapping those two things out, like roughly. I wanted to cover up my resident services. As you can see, it's pretty close to my entrance. However, luckily enough, it is a bit to the left, so I can easily enough cover it up with a cliff. And so I first tried to kind of figure out the general shape of this cliff. Now, throughout the speed build, I'll kind of pop back in and out just to kind of explain my thought process and take you along with all of my plans that I had when building this. Now, whenever I land in Waterscape, I tend to go back and forth quite a bit because I have to constantly kind of adjust the cliff or the water that I'm currently kind of building. And sometimes even when decorating, as you'll see later, I kind of have to go back on it. And also I tend to get frustrated quite quickly with either water or landscaping. And at that point, I always like to kind of switch between the two. So you'll see me go back and forth between the cliff building and the waterscaping. Now, the vision that I had for this water feature was that I wanted it to be like a natural looking pond, which I actually find quite hard to do. Like, it's very hard to make it look not symmetrical and kind of like it would look naturally. And then I knew that I wanted to have kind of like an island in the middle, so just like a place for me to plant another tree and add some more decorations to kind of, you know, add some more details to the entrance. I thought that that would be like a nice idea, and so, you know, I just struggled back and forth with this water. By the way, if you'd like to see this entire process in real time with me, like I did it on stream, I do upload all of my streams on YouTube. I'll be linking all the videos where I built my entrance in the description box down below, and then you can go ahead and see my actual struggles, because for the speed build I do have to say that I actually edited out quite a bit of the struggle. Like, a lot of the item placements that I ended up not going with, I actually didn't include in the speed build, but you can definitely see them in the streams. And once I got into a point where I was kind of okay with it, I went back to the cliff building, because now that the water feature was built, it was also a little bit easier for me to picture how much space I actually had for all the pathway and all the decorations along the side. And so I could easily see kind of what I had to adjust. And here I added a little pathway in front of the cliffs because I still wanted to be able to go to the left side. I just wanted to block off the resident services and not see that, but still access the left. And I wanted to have this like single tile pathing, and so I just put that down to have like an idea of how much space I have, and then adjusted the cliff. And then I went up on the cliff and built another tier just so I could play a little bit with more waterfalls, more decorations, and to give the entrance a lot of depth. And so I just kind of mapped out how big I wanted this area. For me, I always try to have at least like a 3x3 cliff, just so I can round out all of the edges, just because I personally like that a little bit more. And then, you know, sometimes I find myself, especially with these upper cliffs, I find myself kind of going back downwards and expanding that cliff as well, just so that that upper level of the cliff can also be big enough to, for example, hold a tree. And even though this cliff now is looking weirdly symmetrical, bear with me, I think that it did work out in the end. And what I did then is to kind of mark my waterfalls just so I could see where I needed to leave some room, where I could place some trees. That's always like one of the biggest struggles for me, is to find out how much space I need to kind of leave room for trees and to really be able to embrace the PLANTCORE theme. And so, you know, I just tried out a few different areas, and then I just went down to see if I liked the look of it, connected some of the rivers, and continued expanding this cliff in the back because I also had plans for this one. Once I realized I would have to adjust my bridge, I removed that one and then kind of adjusted this river to shift the bridge a tiny bit to the left and back, and also went back to adjust this little pond at the entrance. And once I had finalized the cliff, I then went over and placed my bridge just so it makes it a lot easier for me to kind of envision everything, and then continued kind of building the cliff up in the back. I initially had this idea of doing like a sunken waterfall, or kind of, I don't know, like a huge waterfall kind of feature, but my idea didn't map out, which is kind of why it looks a bit weird right now. I'll be readjusting this later on, but for now I kind of had an idea that didn't work out. And that's okay. That's often the case for me, and it's absolutely fine. You can always go back and change stuff when it doesn't work out. And then it was time to add the little island in the middle of our pond. Now, one thing I knew is that I wanted it to be big enough for a tree, so it needed to be 3 by 3. And so I just kind of started figuring out the position of it, quickly realized that I wanted to place it more to the front than to the back, and just kind of, you know, just made enough room for a tree, rounded out all the edges so that it looks a bit more natural, and that was pretty much all there is to that one. And I started planting a bamboo because I really like bamboo as of late. I have a very serious relationship with bamboo, as I like to say. And then I went to expand this platform even more. I didn't include all of it because it's just boring landscaping, but essentially I just needed it to be big enough to place Hazel's house. And then I went ahead to work on some pathing. So if you've seen my new island update video, you might know that I have gotten rid of the path. I'm only using some variations of it, but apart from that, my path is mostly these like round circular shapes that are either in-game pathing with a design on top of it, or, you know, these kind of shapes that already come with 4 tiles. I absolutely love it. It is a struggle sometimes, and I didn't completely include it here either, because matching the different designs and colors and everything can be a bit hard. But apart from that, I really like it. It adds a lot of detail, and it helps me be so much more inspired for this island that I'm very glad I made that choice. Also, on that note, I am working on a video where I show you my design codes that I'm using on this island, so absolutely stay tuned for that. Until then, you can find them, like I said, in the description box below. And then I, you know, kind of use my path as very much a decoration too. So I always kind of need to figure out my pathing before I do anything else, just so I can kind of see all the designs going on already, and I can kind of build around that and frame my pathing, if that makes any sense. And so, you know, that's kind of what I figured out first. And then I started to go and place some items. I tried to incorporate this noodle slide here because I kind of like the item. I think it's a cute item, but I'll actually end up moving it later. Once again, I planted a bamboo tree, and then the green leaf piles are definitely a favorite of mine in this island too. And then it was just a lot of figuring stuff out for me. I knew that I wanted to have, of course, lots of plants around. I knew that I wanted to have some bushes. I really love the butterfly model, so I knew that I wanted to have that. It was also important for me to keep some music by the entrance, so the Lily record player was definitely a must, and so I also placed that one. And then I went ahead and also placed a street lamp. I love the brown ones. I think they're really, really pretty. And I kind of wanted it to have next to that bamboo on the island. And then there was just a lot of trial and error. I really just put down a lot of items and went to check if I like how they look. And then I went on to this little path in front of the cliff. So I wanted to have this like single tile patchwork look and have different custom designs on top of each of them. So that's kind of what I prepared, just so I would have a rough idea of what it was going to look like. I placed some log stakes in front of that waterfall. And then I think the next stream I started working on this a little bit more. I started adjusting some stuff and taking some stuff back down. Also, something that I like to do most of the time is I decorate a space, and then later on I'll go back and I'll take everything down again just so I can place some custom designs on the floor, because those add so much detail and make everything look so much like fuller and more beautiful. I don't really know how to describe it, but it definitely changes a lot. So if you ever have an area where you feel like something's missing, I would suggest try some custom designs on the floor. Even if it's just some leaves or stepping stones or flowers, it can add so much depth and detail. It's seriously pretty amazing. And then I went to put some custom designs on these patchwork tiles. Now for something like this, I would say definitely don't be afraid to redo it a bunch of times. It can be quite hard to get the right composition of colors, and so, you know, if you feel like something's off, don't worry about it. Just redo it, try out some different designs. You can use either ones that completely cover the in-game pathing or ones that are kind of see-through, and you'll definitely figure it out. Now, one of the most important aspects when I decorate is kind of the height composition of different items. And for this one, I kind of didn't like the way the record player covered up the mum and butterfly. And so I kind of switched that one back and, you know, switched some items around, kind of checked if anything else was going to look better. I ended up having the butterfly model and then the mums in front of that, which I think is actually quite nice because the mums, you know, cover a bit of the butterfly stand, which I think is really, really cute and makes the item look so much more amazing. And then I went to finalize the waterscaping and landscaping. I decided I wanted to have this waterfall by the bridge kind of connect to the other waterfalls as well, and so I quickly realized I was pretty limited with the cliff and then also Hazel's house right there. So it took me a few tries to get this right, and I actually had to, I think, go down and readjust the cliff, make it a bit bigger. And also this cliff up here, I wanted to connect it to the waterfall, which as it is right now doesn't work. And so what I then decided to do is actually just bring it back one more tile. Like I decided to make this cliff a bit bigger so that I could end up really connecting the waterfalls and make everything look a bit more natural. I also have to say I kind of care about how my map looks, and whenever there's water just randomly ending anywhere, I feel like it's kind of odd. And so I really like to pay attention to that. And you know, sometimes you have to go back and readjust some stuff in order for that to work. And then I just went back up with the bigger cliff that we now built and kind of tried to figure out how to make that waterfall in order to be able to connect to the river down below. So I switched it around so that it's kind of closer to Hazel's house on the right hand side. And then I was kind of able to connect the two and bring those water features together, which I think is actually looking a lot better. And then it was time to figure out some tree placement. So one tree I wanted to have in front of Hazel's house, or at least one tree, just so I could kind of cover it up a little bit and tie it into the PLANTCORE theme. And then also I wanted to have them on this front cliff because, you know, trees kind of add a lot of greenery. They tie a lot of areas together. And so I really wanted to kind of figure out the tree placements. Ended up making this cliff a bit bigger, but then actually was able to place some trees. I opted for a bamboo and a cedar tree. And, you know, if you plant nursery fruit trees behind smaller trees, you can actually stunt them in growth. You might totally know this before, but if you want a smaller tree and you want it to stay that size, just plant a fruit sapling anywhere in the blocks around it. And then after a bit of struggle, I ended up kind of placing some items on these like diagonal parts of the cliff, which can be a bit hard because a lot of items don't really work with that because they leave gaps that kind of look odd or something like that. But once again, I just recommend trying out a lot of different items. If you have some type of vision and you have your favorite items kind of picked out that you like to use generally in your builds, then I would just suggest kind of playing around with those, seeing like height differences and seeing the difference in sizes and kind of shapes, and then just kind of playing and using the knowledge that you gain by trying it out to your advantage in the end. I then also started working on this cliff in the back because next to covering up the resident services with a cliff and the water feature, the third thing I knew that I wanted to have by my entrance was like a double bridge feature. However, I think I kind of messed this up the first time and I had a picture in my mind, but then executed it the wrong way. So I struggled with this for way too long. I built way too many bridges in this entire ordeal. I'll save you all the pain and the boring footage of me shoveling dirt, but essentially I ended up with something like this in the end, and I just didn't like it. It didn't seem right to me. I think that the diagonal bridge up top was just not the right way to execute this, and so later on, actually added another tier on top off screen because I decided I wanted to have the bridge a little bit higher up. And then I ended up with this. I do apologize for the overlays, I forgot to turn them off, but essentially I just built another level and then did a river that was just kind of split into two waterfalls in the front. And that one I enjoyed a lot more from the bottom. It just looked a lot better. I think that the bridge is a lot more on display if you just have it in a horizontal way. And then I saw that this spot next to Hazel's house would maybe be kind of cool for a tea spot, and so I added all that. Added lots of custom designs on the floor again, and just have a nice little tea spot next to Hazel's house now, which is actually visible from the entrance, so it's definitely part of the entrance. And this double bridge moment I definitely appreciate a lot more than the one I had before. So once again, if you're not happy with something, don't be afraid to tear it down again. You know, sometimes that can definitely help to figure out what you like a lot more. And then I went back to this little island to also have some more decorations on here. I just have some flowers, a mossy stone, some custom designs, all that kind of fun stuff, just to kind of add more details and make everything look finished. I feel like if I leave things completely empty without any decorations and without any custom design codes on the floor, I always feel like it kind of doesn't look finished. So that's just kind of something that I personally like. But of course, if you don't really love design codes on the floor, then that's not something you have to do. I just personally think it's actually really pretty. I also added a little pond to the left side of this cliff, which I didn't include building it because it doesn't really because it's not really part of the entrance. But I then also went back to decorate the tops of these cliffs as well as you know, the front of the cliff, and kind of just, like I said, just fill up empty spaces here as well. I had to go back and redo my waterscaping just so I could place items. This can be super annoying. Like, this actually really annoys me, especially because sometimes you kind of destroy some waterscaping that you then can't access anymore, and you have to take so much stuff down again. But I'm glad I did it because in the end, I'm very happy with how it turned out. I will show you a walkthrough once we're done, so definitely stay tuned for that one. And I'll show you how it looks when you actually come onto my island and you just walk along the pathway. And then for the decorating, like I said, it really just includes a lot of trying out. I knew that I wanted to have mostly like natural items, so I included some stone items. When possible, I customized them in the mossy version, and I just used some flowers, I used custom designs, I used kind of plant items, so any potted plants, or also the standees are actually kind of nice, leaf piles on my pathway, all that kind of stuff, just to add tons and tons of details and fill up every single space and make everything look very much yeah, full, like I said, but also this like overgrown natural plant core vibe that I'm going for. And with that, we've pretty much reached the end of my entrance decorating. Definitely stay tuned for the little walkthrough that I have included at the end. But apart from that, this is pretty much all that I decorated for my entrance. So we have cliffs to the left, a water feature to the side, we have a house by the entrance, we have a double bridge feature, and I actually have to say I really like how it turned out, and my entrance still makes me very happy to walk through, and it's the perfect place to welcome anybody who visits my island. So thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And I would say have an awesome time, and hopefully I'll see you very, very soon.